Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We might kick off. Keep posting where you're from the chat. It's good to see a bit of action going on there all the time. But I want to officially welcome everybody to the 10-day Founder Hackathon in association with Half Baked and Bold. And what I'm going to do, so I'm going to share a screen and I'm going to rely on you, Eric, to tell me whether you can see this or not. I see your head
Oh
now.
yeah, I can see it.
That's good. That's good. Um, And even though this is run by Half Baked and Bold, this isn't about us, right? This is about you. This is about all those people who are posting all those countries at an outrageous rate. Feel, feel free to slow it down, so we can see where people are coming from. But everybody here in this room has something in common. Whether you're looking for your first customer or you've exited for billions of dollars, everybody here has a little bit of ambition, right? They want to build something. And if that's you, you're in the right place. Now, you might be asking, who are we? We're Half Baked and we're all about doing one thing, creating more founders. And we've teamed up with Bold today because every day we do this on our newsletter. But what we want to do with this hackathon and what we want to do with this event is to make this the best 45 minutes of your week, right? Say sorry to Black Friday for me. And what we're going to do is in the next kind of 20 seconds or so, we're going to give everybody a bonus because you've shown up live, right? And your time is valuable. And even if you leave now because you don't understand my accent, at least you'll get some value from today. So John, feel free to drop that link in the chat. Maybe pause the ability for everybody to send in messages or it's going to get lost very, very quickly. And then you can reopen it after that. But once I give you that, we're going to move on to the main event. We're going to move on to our conversation with Eric, where he's going to talk about all the startup secrets, maybe give away his credit card details. Thanks in advance, Eric. Um, After that, we're going to do another bonus as a thank you. We're going to play MVP or RIP, which I'm sure you're all very excited about. And then at the end, we're going to do what we call in Ireland, throwing the kitchen sink at you, which is a good thing. And I am a little bit nervous about it, I have to say, but you do have to be live to get it when it comes out. So let's get started straight away. The zero to validation playbook. John, throw it in there if you haven't already. And what we've done with this, just to give people context, we have spoken with founders who have started companies that have done 100K, a million, 100 million, and $1 billion upwards, and congealed it all into a few pages all around going from zero to validation for your idea. And we'll get to that and the importance of that a little bit later. It's not public, just so you attended tonight. But we're just getting warmed up, right? Because today we don't only have the CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in the world, but in my mind, we have a future Ray-Bans model looking at this picture here. Eric, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have. We didn't plan this, but I think I have that exact same pair of glasses. Right here.
People, people will say that was a fix.
I know. It's too perfectly timed, honestly. But it's so bright in this room. I had them next to me.
well,
But yeah, excited to be here.
you also have the blue sky in the background as well, so you could almost say
I
this
know.
this has been perfect. I love it.
This is my AI version. Yeah. So like, I couldn't make it today.
Love it. Funnily enough, this is completely off topic. I built my own AI clone right before ChatGPT came out. I put it on YouTube and it just rendered the entire video completely useless. So I wouldn't attempt that. Anybody, just use HeyGen from now on. Eric, we might kick it off with a bit of a story. There's a very cliche saying of a 10-year overnight success. But what a lot of people don't know is that you were quite scrappy over the last 10 years. And that led to some pretty good stories involving sleeping in places you probably shouldn't have been.
Yes, that is very true. Yeah, so I came out to Silicon Valley. My co-founder and I, he and I actually grew up down the street from each other in Chicago and learned how to code together when we were like 13. And then right after high school, we came out to Silicon Valley. This is back in like 2011, 2012. And we were 18, 19 and, broke, starting startups. And so my original kind of claim to fame was that I lived in AOL's headquarters illegally, like squatting there. That's like the term for it. And I lived there for like 4 or 5 months, something like that, just on their couches. I was like eating ramen because they had like ramen stocked there. They had a gym which had a shower, so I was like showering there. But that's how we bootstrapped our first company. Is we were living out of AOL's headquarters. Eventually got busted and kicked out, but and then it became like this kind of global headline. There's like this kid's living AOL. So if you Google AOL squatter, like that's like the search term. You'll find the whole story on this.
I love that. So does that mean you're giving people permission to show up to the Bolt office and sleep on one of the couches?
So that's the thing, right? So it's rules for thee, but not for me. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I love the tenacity and like we actually ended up running a hacker house where people would literally just come in and just like code and crash and all that. So we ran it for like I think like 3 or 4 years after that in Palo Alto. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is honestly, there's a ton of places in Silicon Valley where you can come and if you're like looking to get into building companies and that sort of thing. I think getting to Silicon Valley and then there's tons of like hacker houses and stuff that you can go and live at. And it's awesome. Since at that time, there was not a lot of places. We ran one of the first hacker houses in Silicon Valley. But now there's a ton of these things. So highly recommend it. And if you can always come by, our new SF office is opening in February. So if you're in the Bay Area, come hack out of our office. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Love it. Sounds good. What I want to do is I want to leverage the fact that you have really kind of like saw it all when it comes to like building startups from starting Scrappy all the way to building Bold today. Like I suppose like where I'd love to start, and I really want to try and get as much value for people here as possible in the time we have, given the fact we're all here for the hackathon. I'd love to get a sense for like some Scrappy tests that you ran earlier on that kind of gave you a big insight when you were launching products, when you were testing things out, when you were trying to get a bit of a signal from the market as to what you were building,
Yeah.
working or not.
Yeah. Well, I think like my co-founder and I spent the first, I guess it was probably like 5, 6 years of our careers as entrepreneurs doing this the wrong way, which is we would spend time building stuff, right? And then we would go and after like out of months, we would go and like show it to customers or prospective customers and whatnot. But by that point, you made so many decisions in the product that it's really hard to even just with yourself unwind decisions and beliefs that you've made about why this thing should be this way. I've always found it better to be extremely brutal about going and getting feedback, even when you have, and ideally, like the last thing you should do is build something because that's the most expensive, time consuming part. Bolt, allows you to actually build stuff way faster to validate ideas faster. But there's kind of a difference between, oh, I'm going to build this to the degree where I'm going to launch it publicly and blah, 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 versus I'm going to what's the simplest way I can go and put this in front of someone and like validate that this is useful, right?
Mm.
Um, when we were building Bolt, I had one of our engineers spend like a week or two max putting together the most basic version of this thing, right? And when he brought it back and I was playing with it, it was clear that I was like, okay, this actually seems to have life in it, and showed it to a couple of other people as well,
What
that was
were
really yeah. Go ahead.
what were some of those like clear signals that you got?
It was so for Bolt, really the question was like in ChatGPT, you can kind of go to it and say, hey, like write me JavaScript code, and it'll do that for you. What we were really the whole premise of Bolt was, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to copy that code into like some dev environment manually, and you're constantly copying and pasting back and forth between these things. But is that enough of a value prop for this thing to exist? Like how useful is it to have this kind of integrated?
Mm.
And so when we actually put that demo together, our Alex, our chief of staff, he sat down with it for like 4 hours. He was expecting to just try it for a few minutes and throw it out or whatever. He was kind of skeptical, but he ended up sitting down and spent 4 hours building a website for his side business that he has, and he was like, "Holy hell, this is incredible!" And that was kind of the moment where you viscerally get to feel it and go, okay, should this, exist or not? And a lot of that comes down to you want to have a skeptical view. Most ideas are not worth pursuing, and you ideally want to just like kill them before you spend any more amount of your time investigating whether they should exist. But that's kind of the challenging thing about this stuff is that I think as an entrepreneur, to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be an optimist and maybe a little crazy to believe in things that other people don't believe in yet. But you have to try and like really be you have to think critically, which means being the biggest critic you can of your own ideas, right? So
Yeah, I think Naval put it in a good way. You need to be a rational optimist to be
yeah,
yeah,
totally,
to be an entrepreneur.
totally.
So hello to the 1,200 rational optimists that are currently watching live. Uh,
And the good news is it's like I've met a lot of people. I think a lot of entrepreneurs start out as optimists and learn how to be business rational just
mm,
by pure iteration of like over and over. Like it took us 5, 6 years to really kind of build a lot of the core skill sets to discern how to place bets on good ideas and how to kill bad ones quickly.
yeah,
But rarely can you start with like a pessimistic perspective because you'll never get started. There's always a problem with whatever business idea that is put in front of anyone. Like that doesn't exist yet, right?
yeah,
So you'll
yeah.
never get started if you're not an optimist.
Well, so what if I dropped you into this hackathon now? I'm sure you have the time to participate, by the way, Eric. And I gave you 10 days and a laptop. Like what's the process, knowing what you know now, that you go through to take an idea from like just an idea to a prototype to actually getting some real world validation? What are some
Yeah,
tangible steps that you would do?
yeah, good question. You know what? I over the years, I've my co-founder and I have come up with ideas where we've like kind of forced pressured them, where it's like whether it's a hackathon or we're like, when we were kind of going in between uh different startup ideas and stuff, we kind of felt the need to like we're like we need to find an idea, so we would try to do something, but it was like we kind of forced the idea
Hmm.
versus something organically popping up. We're like that's interesting. What and just something that just like happened in your day to day life, and you're like, wait a second, why doesn't that sort of thing exist, right? And so I guess my first thought is like sometimes the right move is to if you don't have an idea you're like oh my god this is like it's something that organically popped up. For me it tends to be like it's not worth sinking a ton of time into, right? That doesn't mean it's not worth just like going and having fun. Like if I go to hackathon I might just make an app that like who cares, maybe it's just an app for me, right? And that would be my recommendation is go and build. Like you always like there's always the best things that I've built in my career that have done the best have they've been things where I'm like I kind of want it just for myself and I'm just trying to have fun. And sometimes that's I'm the only person that will ever want that, and I and at least I had fun doing it, right? And so that would be my first recommendation is find something that's like fun that you yourself want to use, right? That because that tends to be or you yourself find really intrinsically interesting to the point you're like obsessed about it, right?
Yeah,
Step zero, right? Once you have that, then the question becomes, okay, well, for this idea, um, if this doesn't exist yet, uh, why doesn't it exist? Could
hmm,
I like? Could you actually, instead of even going and building stuff, could you actually kind of just go and glue some other things together that could kind of basically make this work like functionally, even if it's not perfect? But it's like, for example, let's say I want to make an app that after after I do a Zoom call with someone, it's like recording me and then sends me a summary of the notes or something, right? I'm like, okay, well, the right way to do this is create some bot that joins the Zoom meeting and then does blah 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 blah. But it's like this, and it's a hosted thing you sign up for. Well, before you do all that, like maybe what you do is just download something that records audio on your Mac. When you're on the phone call, it saves that file. You upload it manually to OpenAI, and it gives you a transcript. And then you can actually feel, does it provide value to me, right? And if the answer is like yes, then it's like okay, well then what's the next step there? Like maybe create a simple little web app that lets you record it, uploads it to OpenAI and gives it back. But like you basically scope it down to like ideally you build no custom software. You purely put in manual work to prove the concept. And that's not just for yourself. You could say, hey, I'm going to like my friend, I'm going to manually do this for you. right? And this is the classic do things that don't scale advice from like, Paul Graham and the Y Combinator folks, where, you have like the Airbnb founders were going to the Airbnb listings and taking professional photos themselves,
Yeah.
right? To make the listings look really good and stand out so that people would actually want to rent them. But that's, something that didn't scale, but they did it, they proved it, and then that allowed them to, go and scale the thing up. So those are the sorts of things I would do on that end. And then build an MVP that's simple but compelling, where it's like,
Yeah.
here's a real, in this case, like here's like a real call that happened. Here's like the transcription that came out. And by the way, for hackathons, like, uh, you know, a lot of hackathons to me is it's like building, yeah, super awesome to like get people together building stuff. It's not just building the software though, it's like building the concept of the business, because at the end it's about presenting the idea. Like how you present the idea is just as important, if not more valuable than the thing you built, right? Because it's about your unique insights and the unique experience you're providing, and just showing someone something you built is not going to do that. Being able to tell the story of, hey, our idea was like, it needs to be simpler to have your calls recorded when you're talking to, when a salesperson is talking to customers. There's a problem we know. And how do we do it? Well, we actually like, just did something really simple. We made this app that records you, uploads to OpenAI. And let me show you, like, this is a real person in this audience who took a sales call, you recorded it, blah, blah, blah. This was this magical output it gave. It's super useful for this, that reason.
Yeah.
And we think we can scale this up because it's, what I mean? It's something that's like, it's an actual real problem be solved. Who cares what you made in a weekend for the software? It's about, hey, we had an insight on the problem. We figured out a way to prove it or disprove it in this period of time. We think, here's what we got, right? And where we think it could go. So anyways, that's how I would approach it.
Love it. So do what feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. Do things
Yep.
that don't scale and get to that aha moment as quickly as you possibly can without having to
Yeah.
rules.
And maybe a better way of like to oversimplify it, like to maybe if you were to over rotate the kind of tail end of the advice that I gave, is it honestly matters more that you're proving or disproving the idea versus
Mhm.
building anything,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that to me is like, and unless you're coming to the hackathon to build something cool for yourself, and that's totally cool. It's like, hey, here's this cool thing I made. But like if you're coming here to say, hey, I'm trying to build a business or a product type that I think other people will want to use, so much of it is just how fast can you prove or disprove the idea, and that might mean you ship actually nothing. Your output might be a slide deck showing the outputs of the manual stuff you did, told in the story of, and now we're going to go build the actual software to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like one of those things where a lot of people are in love with the idea of what they could do or build, but they're afraid to put it out in the real world and get punched in the face, which is kind of
Yep.
all about what this is about, this hackathon. And we'll get to that in a bit. But one of the things I'd love to know, because everybody's so excited about building AI tools and they're excited about, doing something using the latest piece of tech. What are you excited about?
Outside of Bolt, you mean?
Outside of Bolt. Let's keep it outside of Bolt
Yeah,
now.
I think um, I'm particularly interested in. I think the general space that Bolt is in is very interesting regarding, you know the world's software is now going to largely be written by AI, and there's a lot of interesting implications of that. Um, some specifically that like we're not involved in today per se, like security of software. It was hard enough before for companies to make sure that their deployed software products didn't have like security holes in them, or could be hacked or whatever have you. But now if AI is writing the software itself, that kind of exponentially increases the attack surface. So it's like, how do you use AI to help secure the AI generated code itself? Very interesting things in that domain. Same thing with just the sheer amount of code being written.
Mm.
There's not enough humans to review this code. So how do you scale that? So there's a lot of interesting bottlenecks that are now starting to crop up that over the next like few years and half decade, I think it's going to be a monster opportunity for companies to come in and solve, is how do you actually scale AI generated software development, basically. So to me, I think it's a huge thing that we're just at the beginning of the trailhead on.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are industries that don't exist yet that are going to become probably the most dominant in the world. I think a lot of people probably just got a new hackathon business idea right there. Um, I'm conscious that we do have other things to move on to, but like there is one thing around, because you've obviously built Thinkster, which was one of your first businesses, you had StackBlitz, you had Bolt, and like each one of them were successful in their own way, but it seems like you've stepped it up every single time. Like, what were some of the early signals that you saw, let's say, with Bolt that you didn't necessarily see with the earlier businesses? And going back, knowing what you know now, is there anything you could have done differently to maybe pivot in that direction a little bit earlier?
Yeah, I think with Bolt, so we with Bolt we actually because I think with any like product, if you're trying to like really build a true startup, which is a extremely like an exponentially growing uh sort of company, there's always some element of timing,
Mm,
right? With just the market you're in and how things change. With Bolt specifically, the key thing that changed was how good AI code gen became last 1 year ago, right? Bolt, we actually had tried to build Bolt 6 months earlier to when we had launched it, and we couldn't because the frontier models weren't good enough to actually build web applications. It was only after Anthropic had rolled out Sonnet 3.5 that's what had made the product possible. So timing is a huge part of this sort of thing, and the way and it's like, well, if it's just timing and it's luck, like how do you do it? You increase your odds of luck by staying in the game long enough, right? To end up getting lucky. And we had been around for 7 years as a company, and the competitors that we had before Bolt, one of them shut down 2 weeks before we launched Bolt. Like that, and they, a great company. They could have been a meaningful competitor in this space, but they shut down 2 weeks too early. And so it's often a game of endurance, right?
mm,
Um, but that said, is you know, we spent the first 5 6 years just basically striking out over and over,
mm.
and Thinkster was kind of the first company that was like a base hit for us. Like we were doing online courses, it worked out reasonably well. It kept us alive and allowed us to get the idea for StackBlitz, which we would not have been. StackBlitz would have never existed, and therefore Bolt, which is because StackBlitz is the original product and the company that has built Bolt. We would have never done that if we hadn't built Thinkster, because the insights came from what we were doing at Thinkster to go and start StackBlitz. And so anyway, so to me, it's I think that the way to I guess there's not there's maybe some things I could give advice on, like, hey, this is what I would go back and do over again. The only advice I think that actually really matters is just how many iterations can you do? Like how
Mm.
fast can you and get feedback from customers, prove or disprove an idea, be ruthless about killing ideas that you don't have conviction in. Because that is the single metric that means that you're learning, that you're doing things versus, oh, we got to go off for 6 months and like build this platform that's going to change everything. And then, but it doesn't. And then 6 months later, you launch it. There's no one using it. You're depressed about it. Like you spend months trying to make it work. Boom, a year of your life is gone.
Yeah.
Like you only get so many shots to do that. I mean, when you could have done that in 2 weeks or something, right? So it's like how short can you actually get yes, no, this matters. That is the entire name of the game. And that's why things like Bolt and Cursor or whatever are incredible, because they allow you to get validation faster one way or the other, which is the lifeblood of how to build a company and how to build great products.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparedness, and I think the story of Bold is definitely one that encapsulates that. And I will hold my hand up and saying I have been there building something for 6 months, launching it, and realizing nobody actually wants it, which is a big reason why are pushing the 10-day validation so much today. Um,
Yep.
Speaking of luck, uh, thanks to everyone for staying on so far. You're getting another bonus. The bonus is the startup idea vault. So anyone who is, thinking about an idea for the hackathon, we're going to give you 100 of them, 100 of our best ones from the Halfbaked newsletter, just in case you see something there you like. Eric said, do what you love. You might find something in here that you love and that you can press going forward. So John, throw that link in. It's also going to be in the hackathon pack afterwards, just in case you don't see it now. But what we're going to do now is we're going to play a bit of a game with Eric, because I always find that the best way to learn about how someone thinks, like it isn't some framework or a pretty slide deck. It's when you throw them in the deep end and force them to react to something. And Eric, I'm going to put you in the hot seat here because we're going to play MVP or IP. It's like Shark Tank, except there's no cameras, money, or Mr. Wonderful. You're kind of stuck with me. So what we're going to do is, Eric, I'm going to pitch a couple of ideas your way. You can select the ideas, and what I want us to do is understand how you think out loud here, how you dissect an idea. What signals will you look for? What's the first question that comes to your mind when you see an idea? And then how would you go about validating that? And ultimately answer the question, do you build an MVP, or are you burying it in the ground for RIP? And if we have time at the end, what we'll also do is take some ideas we have from people in the audience. So if you have a product that you want to share, if we have time, throw it into the chat. We might get some time to have a look at that live on the call. We're going to keep this relatively quick, almost like speed dating. So Eric, pick one of the ideas here that you like and you'd like to dive a bit deeper in, and I'll give you a very shabby 30-second pitch, and then we can riff off it from there.
Okay, so I'm just like picking based on the name.
Yeah, pick it based on the name, or which company we copied for the logo.
Okay. Um, I like do break the mold. Let's see what that's about.
We'll do break the mold. Okay, so I'm just going to skip forward and pretend we're going straight in there. So this is mold alert. And apart from copying the HubSpot logo, this addresses the problem that 70% of US homes actually don't know that they have mold in their home. Mold is dangerous. It can cause a lot of issues for your health. And testing at the moment is slow, it's expensive, and requires people to come out to your house. So the solution that we're proposing here is an app that combines new AI imaging alongside some testing kits to identify dangerous mold in houses.
Okay. And then what do I do now? What am I digging in on?
That's a good question. I think for now, let's riff off this idea. So, number one, what do you think about this idea? Is this something that you would explore? Let's say you were investing in it. What are some of the concerns that you would see, potential avenues? Would you go about validating this? How would you think about validating this idea?
Yeah, I think that it's a wonderful idea. I mean, mold actually is a pretty like actually an issue, right? Like I think it's actually a legitimate idea. I think the question though is, um, how do you make money? Like, what's the business model? Like, how do you make money on this? Because assuming it's a business, right? Like, what is the revenue model? This strikes me how it's pitched strikes me as it's like a direct to consumer thing
Mhm.
versus a business to business thing. So I think there's kind of a separate track there of like if it's direct to consumer, how are people going to know about this? Like getting the attention of consumers is extremely hard, tends to be very expensive, and so in order to justify like spending a ton of money on ads, you need to also know how you're going to make that money back and then some. So that kind of dovetails. So it's basically like, how do you make money on this? And because if it's consumer, you basically have like the classic like your customer acquisition cost, like how much you're spending on ads or whatever to get people to the app, has to be less than the lifetime value you expect to make. Like how much money one customer will on average give you over their entire lifetime on the product. That's the simple equation for any consumer business. Like CAC, customer acquisition cost, has to be less than LTV for it to be a profitable business, like over time. So, anyways, that would be where I would start with this one.
Love it. And if you didn't understand any of those acronyms, the zero to validation playbook has them all there, just in case you're looking to learn a little bit more about it. One question on this, Eric. If you had this idea and you wanted to go and do it, what would you do to actually go and validate it? Like, what are some of those kind of sticky things that don't scale things that you could do here to try and get some early validation and signs that number one, there's a business model, like you said, and number two, that there might actually be some demand.
Yeah, I think to me it's like So they're kind of two separate sides of the same coin, because it's like, if we're kind of talking, is this something that's like, is this a business? Because if you're passionate about it, great, go do it. Doesn't
Mm,
matter. But if you're not expecting to make money, you're just like, I care about doing this, fine. If we're saying, hey, this is a business, right? Um, I think it's worthwhile to have an idea on how you could make money. And I suppose the best idea I have for that is that you could connect people with uh, service providers that could clean the mold out of their home.
yeah.
That's the best. That's the best guess that I have on how you could do it. I don't know what the here's the things. I don't know what the margins are on that though. I don't know. You know, I just don't have a good sense of what that could look. However, let's say that we did to doing research. We're like, we think there's some amount of money we can make. Okay. The other problem then is distribution. If assuming this is we're trying to get direct to consumer, like people to adopt this. How do we get people to download our app? Because I like fundamentally, I think we could go talk to people and like validate. Hey, do you think that there's mold is concerning in your home? I would say I don't think most people are even going to be aware that this
Mm,
is concerning and stuff, right?
mm,
So there's a bit of market education you need to do. What I would go do is I would go spend like this is the idea of the hackathon. I would spend this entire hackathon making TikToks that are just like basically just baiting people like with like it's like a video because you see these videos where people like record something that looks gross like dude look at this thing blah 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 and then it's like oh this is mold and they're like oh I use this app to like it's like basically an ad but it's not an ad it's something that goes viral but basically you go and see can we use viral marketing which is extremely like it's free acquisition cost to start at least and go and prove if there's demand of like hey how many people like see like some moldy thing in their home aren't really aware that it's like actually a health concern and would
mm.
go and like open up our website or app to go and take a pic of it and have use Bolt in 1 minute to make a landing page for this thing and just see how many hits happen and if you make a video go viral and a lot of those converts people going to the app it's like okay I mean seems like there's demand and maybe you can scale that up that would be how I would approach it at least.
Well, whoever does that is a shoe-in for the Build in Public award. And actually, believe it or not, John can confirm this as the head of content for Half Baked, but I think this idea actually might have come from a TikTok video that we saw of someone talking about mold that they had in their house. So that's
I was gonna say that strikes me. It strikes me as a video where like it's something that'll be on TikTok where it's like, hey, you don't know it, but like you have mold in your home and it's actually a health concern, right? So like I actually, it strikes me as high virality.
ideas are everywhere, folks. Okay, pick the next one, Eric.
A higher power. I like the
A
name.
a higher power. So a higher power is for botboard. And the premise behind botboard is quite simple. AI is taking over and it's going to replace a lot of tasks slash jobs that people currently do in their business. But a massive proportion of the population don't know how to build agents or use agents. And we're proposing a solution where people can use a simple job board to post jobs that they want AI to perform. And it has a marketplace dynamic where people can take those jobs and maybe even introduce some Kaggle form where they compete to get those jobs like Fiverr or Upwork.
This is one of those ideas that sounds uh like can I be savage? Is this real? Like
No, no, no. You can be as savage as you like.
okay, this is one of those ideas that sounds like so bad, right? But it's kind of actually an interesting idea though because I say so bad because it's like I think that directionally, like with where AI agents are going, it's like can do certain jobs. Like at our business, we use an AI agent for our customer emails and stuff, right? So it's like, and so it's kind of real. Um, but I think like to me, the idea underpinning this is actually more that like I think the problem that this could solve is really more that companies. It's really like the fundamental problem is like throw out the job board concept. Really, the issue is companies don't know that they can adopt AI agents to solve certain parts of their business today. That's like what this is trying to solve for, basically. Um, and so I think instead of calling it like I don't know, maybe you do call it a job board. I don't know. This is a weird one. I like it though. I actually, it's like such a weird idea. Um,
You're gonna, I won't spoil anything, but you're gonna like it even more in 10 minutes time as everyone else
no
will.
shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, okay. What I'll say with this is I actually think that instead of like my first thought is like instead of positioning it as jobs, like, like a job board or something, it's because the problem is it's like you're not going to hire an AI agent. You're going to like integrate it to work on a task or something, right? What would be interesting is if you could say, like, hey, here's a marketplace of things that AI can do for you, whether it's responding to a customer
Mm,
email or reviewing a pull request, and you can like one click try any agent to do that task, and it's super seamless,
got it.
right?
Yeah,
That to me
absolutely.
is it's more of like instead of being like, hey, it's an agent that you can hire. It's like, no, you can't. You can't have a conversation with this. You can't like be like, I need to give you a performance review. You're not doing good. It's like, no, I'm coming here because it's like, hey, we have pull requests that are stacked up. I need to have something go and review them, or I have a whole bunch of emails from customers. I would like to give this agent an email to try and respond to and see how it goes. And then yeah, I'll add it and integrate it fully and pay for it or something, you know. But it's,
Yeah.
that to me is it's like a one-click marketplace sort of thing.
Yeah, got it. We are running a little bit short on time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more quick rapid fire. We're going to spend 30 seconds on an idea. Pick one. We're going for it only happens live once or World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. Let's see what that is.
Got it. So, problem. Med students don't get anywhere near enough real patient time before they go into the actual wards. It's expensive, doesn't scale, and most of them feel unprepared. With the advancements of AI, what we want to do is build a virtual patient simulator that uses AI to help them diagnose patients, treat, communicate using an AI patient.
Cool idea. Uh, unless you are in the healthcare world, good luck. Selling to healthcare, highly regulated for good reason. Training doctors. I mean, I the real question, would you want a doctor that's been trained on AI? I don't know. I don't know if I would, just saying. So I like it would have, there's a high bar. I would say RIP unless you're like maybe a doctor yourself.
The thing is, if you solve it and if you get it right, you have a moat that will probably last you a lifetime. But
Exactly. Exactly.
Eric, we're going to leave fan zone for now. There it is. If someone wants to take a screenshot for it, that's one I'd love for somebody to build. What we're going to do now is, Eric, you can sit down and take a breather for a second. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at you, like I promised everyone before. Because right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to officially launch the Founder Accelerator. That was the only closest thing to a bell that I had. But what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit real for a sec here on this and give you a bit of context as to where we came up with build it, launch it, validate it, which, as I hope you've seen, has been the theme of what we've done so far. Like it's all based on an uncomfortable truth that's really after coming up in the last year, and that's that building is no longer as much of a moat as it was. Thanks to people like Eric who have built amazing tools like Bolt, the only thing now that's in short supply is actually people that are like going to stop talking and actually start doing, because most would-be founders like will spend their lives confusing something like motion with progress, right? They brainstorm, they plan, they get ready, and then they wake up a decade later and they have a notes app filled with loads of ideas that they probably stole from Half-Baked. Now, validation is the thing, right? Putting something in front of the market and letting the world punch you in the face. This is the real unlock here. It's the difference between entrepreneurship as a personality and entrepreneurship as a balance sheet event, right? And the 15K in prizes that we have up for grabs here are great, but the real prize here for everyone is the option value in actually getting off the sidelines and getting into the arena. And as Half-Baked, we're selfish. We want more founders in the world. That's what we want to do. More people taking risks, building things, contributing to the ecosystem instead of just commenting on it. And if you're here, that should be you. And the next 10 days is your shot. And we're giving you all the tools to do it. Bolt and Eric and the team have been kind enough to give everybody participating, which is a lot of people, 3 months of Bolt Pro for free. We have provided startup ideas, the validation playbooks, and we're giving you a community where you can ask questions. I know we didn't get time to look at people's products that they posted in, put it into the Discord. We have a team working around the clock to help you get from that 0 to 1 phase. And what we want to do here is we want to help you validate. Now, what does validation actually mean, right? Because validation can sometimes be mistaken for interest, right? Validation isn't someone saying, oh, that's a cool idea. If it was, myself and John would be billionaires with Half-Baked, right? It's someone who's actually taking economic intent here. Like research and conversations are fine, but they're kind of like foreplay, right? No person builds a business on polite enthusiasm. The further you go up the ladder that you see here, the closer you get to real validation, right? Remember, people often lie, but their calendars and their wallets definitely don't, right? Don't be the person spending years, as Eric said, building the perfect product and then asking for validation. This entire hackathon is built on the premise of building your product around validation. Every feature, anything you do should answer one question, which is, does anybody actually want this? And it doesn't have to take a long time to do that. Remember when I told you, Eric, 10 minutes ago that you'd be delighted to see this idea? Well, last Sunday, I left my great wife and I went to a cafe, bought a double espresso, and I took the bot board idea that we had and I built a prototype on Bolt. I started promoting it on Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook ads. And within 48 hours, I had generated 17 leads and $4,600 worth of job postings on the website built on Bolt. And I did it with 64 minutes of work. And I can prove it to
Wow.
you because it was all done and recorded on Loom. And you're going to get it in your hackathon pack. So trust me, this can be done. And if I can do that in 64 minutes, I'm very, very excited to see what everybody here does in 10 days. If everybody goes to their inbox after this, you'll see that we've sent you an email with your hackathon pack. It's not there yet. Don't worry, it is coming. And on that pack, you'll have your bold code. You'll have all the questions that you have answered. Hopefully, the rules, all the bonuses there in the one place. And I will be, I'd like to ask people here if there has been a mix up with your code or it's not working. There's a lot of people registered for this hackathon. Don't sweat it. Just put it in the Discord. We'll make sure we get it rectified as soon as we possibly can. Submitting your project is easy, all done in the one place. We have a few different prizes that I'm going to run through there now in a second, but it's all done in the one sheet. Everybody's automatically entered to every single prize. You can access it at hackathon.gethalfbay.com, but also on the founder pack, the launch email. And again, always revert back to the Discord if you have any questions for us. We have 3 channels of prizes here that we're giving out. The first is around the grand prize, right? It's the best product, which is what we're calling it. It's awarded to the person who builds the most like complete and validated startup on Bolt in the 10 days. And this means not just building something that works, but also it means proving the real world demand that we talked about, whether it's signups, leads, customers, conversations, or transactions, whatever it be. So we have 2 prizes in this category. The second category is the Build in Public Award. As Eric mentioned, and I swear to God, we did not plant that. Like, that was like very, very serendipitous. But building in public slash, telling your story online is becoming more and more important when it comes to starting a business. So we wanted to dedicate its own award here, where we're giving it to the builder who generates the most buzz around their project, their idea, their concept online. This isn't about like getting millions of views. If you do, great. But the point here is to be authentic, build that muscle, tell your story, and make sure you tag us. And then finally, we have the Video Pitch Award. And this is like Ron Seal, it does what it says on the tin. Send us your video pitch. Keep it real, under 3 minutes if possible. Tell your story. You can have it super highly edited or you can have a selfie video. All we want is you telling us what your project is, why it matters, and why we should back you. There's plenty more in the hackathon pack explaining background the prizes, tips to win, etc. So feel free to have a look there. Couple of things. We try to keep this very, very simple, just with regard to the event. Your project must be built on Bolt. There is a part of the hackathon pack explaining exactly what that means. Your product must be publicly viewable. It is worth saying because you'd be amazed how many people keep their project on private, and then we won't be able to see it. We'd have to contact you. And then lastly, your submission must be a project with no prior revenue. and you must do it before the deadline date in November 30th. Few key dates. November 30th is the deadline. Finalists are going to be announced on December 2nd. And then what we're going to do is the finalists are going to appear in the Half-Baked newsletter in front of 120,000 founders. And our subscribers are going to vote for the winners for each of the prizes. And the winners are going to be announced on December 5th. And I did promise you one last prize, and this is the last bonus, I swear. We're going to put the link into the Discord, into the chat right now. And it's very easy to get lost behind a username. So what we want to do is we want to encourage people to introduce themselves via a video, ideally, into the Discord, who you are, what you're doing, what you're building, and why you're building it. And we're going to award one person $500 in the next 24 hours who performs that action. And the only thing I have to say after that is go get it. And I might pass it back to Eric for some final words on wisdom for anybody participating in the hack.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, all I'd say is go have fun. I mean, I think that if there's anything I've learned over building companies the past few decades, or decade and a half, I guess, is kind of what I said earlier, is that I look back and there's moments where I was like stressed about building things and solving challenges, whatever have you. But it's truly a blessing to be able to go and work on anything you want to build. And it's especially at the earliest stages, like being able to participate. The fact that you're able to have the time to participate in the hackathon is a huge privilege. And I think there's a lot of people, like myself included, where it's like, man, I'd love to be able to go and just build anything, take whatever ideas I have from scratch and go create that. And it's important to appreciate that part of the journey, because when you make something successful, you have less time to go and build new things. And so I would just say go have fun, make things you want, and enjoy the journey every day. So that's my advice to everyone here.
Love it. I can't top that anyway. Eric, thanks so much for joining us as well. We know you're incredibly busy and the team have been absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal. So thanks.
thank you for having me.
Thank you to everyone who's come as well. All 1,200 of you that showed up live. Honestly, it's an absolutely insane number of people from all over the world. So thank you so much for showing up. And we'll be seeing you a lot over the next 10 days. Best of luck. We'll see you on Discord. And until then.
Awesome. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.